Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 3 of 19 Bosses, where we pull back the shiny curtain of corporate America and tell relatable stories in hopes of helping you all navigate the business world.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Sabrina. And today we're bringing you a story that we like to refer to as cold calls and house parties. Now, if you're joining us hoping that we're going to expose people and businesses all across corporate America, this probably isn't the podcast for you. Instead, we aim to keep all people and businesses anonymous while still sharing these crazy and often relatable stories with all of you. Our hope is that you can learn something from each of Julie's stories and take those lessons with you as you navigate your own career path. Now, most of us know that the first few years in any job can feel overwhelming. Honestly, there is so much pressure to show results and be successful straight out of the gate. For me personally, I've seen firsthand how that can lead to so many young professionals becoming burnt out and feeling like they need to change their career path entirely so early on. So, today's episode is for anyone who has struggled with feeling like they might be in over their head.
I can relate to this so much. There were many moments in those early years that I would question my abilities and whether or not I could do the job. But looking back, there were glimpses of success during those early years. And honestly, those are the moments that you have to hold on to. This is one of my memories that carried me through when things got tough. Okay, so let me set the stage for you. My company was set on acquiring partnerships with a handful of well-known companies. If I said their names today, everyone listening in would know exactly who I was talking about. They were that big. They still are. Honestly, I'm not really sure why I was given the sales territory that I had to begin with. I was so new to sales. And looking back, it just seemed so crazy to have them take a chance on me for something that was so important to the business's success, especially when we had more senior people at the company. While I will never know why that decision was made, I can say that I learned a lot from the experience. So what did I do? Well, I did almost I did what almost anyone in my shoes would do. I turned to colleagues who had been in the role before and had track records of successful deals and asked them what to do. I hoped to be able to mimic their processes and absorb any tips and tricks that they were willing to share with me. And while this did help get me started, trying to learn tips from people who had years of experience, well, it wasn't exactly working for me. And maybe it was because, as I learned throughout my career, success comes from innovation, trying new things, and figuring out what works best for you.
What were those first few months like?
Okay, so those first few months were rough. By month 2, I was already getting asked for updates on how some of the deals were going. Month 2, seriously? Yeah.
Gosh.
Honestly, though, the hardest thing, though, actually wasn't the pressure from leadership and stakeholders who were constantly asking for updates, which were just limited at best. For me, the hardest thing was feeling as if I were a complete failure. I know it sounds dramatic, but I'm sure many of you may be able to relate to me when I say it can be personally challenging to see your colleagues being successful while you are struggling every day doing the same things they are. I was frustrated. No one was getting back to me. I knew something had to change, and I decided that regardless of if I brought in a deal or not, I was going to go after one prospect relentlessly until he told me to pound sand or decided he wanted to talk. So I decided to call him every day, sometimes twice a day. At the time, it never occurred to me that this was a bad idea. Others may have judged me. I think they were judging me, but I really didn't care. He hadn't told me no, so I was just going to keep going. And it turns out that 47 days was his breaking point.
Oh wow, 47 days. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised you didn't block your number by day 10.
Yeah, well, I mean, I bet he would have if he could have, but this was back in the day and wasn't exactly easy to do. Now, it's important to know that I was working from home at the time before it was mainstream to work from home, which is probably why when he called me back after all those weeks of calling, he calls me back 8 p.m. on a Friday night. He was very surprised that I answered his call. And of course, as luck would have it, the call came in at the worst possible time. So here I am, 25 people in my home, eating burgers, drinking beer, enjoying a Friday night, like, 20 somethings do. And I mean, it was absolute chaos. And then to top it off, as always happens when you have a young kid, they always seem to know the best time to get sick. And Sabrina, you couldn't have timed it any better.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
I mean, I don't know if it was too much junk food, the running around with all the other kids in the backyard, but it just came out of nowhere. And you told me that your stomach was hurting and you looked white as a sheet. I grabbed you. I was like making my way to the bathroom because I knew that the puking was about to commence. And that's when the phone rang. I was like, great. I thought, are you kidding me? I mean, I quickly glanced at the caller ID with every intention of letting the answering machine get it. But then I looked at the number and I knew exactly who was calling. I mean, I'd been calling this guy for weeks, and this is when he calls me. Probably on his part, he was hoping that it would go to voicemail. I mean, it's 8 o'clock on a Friday night.
He's like, no way she's going to pick
Yeah.
up.
I mean, I had no choice but to answer that phone. There was no way I was letting that go to voicemail. I would never get that guy again. So I grabbed a trash can, picked up the phone, was calling your dad to come and help you. I mean, it
Wait,
was an
so like,
absolute.
were you like holding my hair like in a ponytail, like just had the trash
Well,
can?
it wasn't even. I would like to say it was a ponytail because I still remember because I had to give you a bath afterwards because it got all.
You just left me to
So,
my own devices. You said, good luck, kid.
yeah, I think I felt pretty badly about that afterwards.
It's okay. I made it here. We're here today. So clearly it worked out.
Yeah, it was not one of my finer moments, but it did turn into be a pretty good moment after all. But at the time, it was very stressful, and I can only imagine what my voice sounded like when I said, "Hello, Julie speaking." And I mean, again, maybe it was because he was so caught off guard that I answered, or maybe it was because he knew I was going to continue to be relentless until we spoke. I mean, whatever the reason, it didn't matter because I was finally able to schedule a meeting with him. And it actually ended up being a very long partnership for both of our companies.
Well, I mean, props to you for answering the phone. I clearly was okay, so it was all good. But like, you talk so much now about how important it is to have boundaries with work. What was that decision, or why did you decide to pick it up in that very moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to remember this was early in my career and I felt like I didn't have a choice. So you're right. I didn't have the best boundaries back then, but that's part of the reason that I'm sharing these stories with you. So others can learn from my lessons.
If you were to go back, would there be anything you would have done differently? Or yeah, what do you think back? Like when you think back, like, is there
Yeah.
anything you would have changed?
Yeah, honestly, I can't say for sure. Well, maybe now I wouldn't have called him twice a day, but I think I started calling him twice a day after like day 30 because if
It's
he
still
hadn't
17 days. He was like, I just might as well pick up at this
if
point.
he hadn't called me by day like 50 or 60, I probably would have called him 3 times a
Oh, he's if he's
day.
listening in, he's like, oh no, I just had to wait it out.
Yes. But other than that, I'm not sure that I would change anything because at the time I really needed a win. And I took a leap of faith. Honestly, I had nothing to lose. People thought I was crazy and questioned whether I might be going too far, but I really felt like my back was against the wall and I had to push. I mean, when I remember this story, I remember it as one of those moments in my career where a series of decisions led to a major milestone in my early career. Had I not been that persistent, had I not picked up that call, who knows if I would have even stayed in sales.
What advice would you give to someone else who may be in a similar situation now?
Take chances. I mean, especially when you're early in your career, take chances. Put yourself out there. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, that's some of the best advice that I never got early in my career. I mean, the business world makes it seem like if you follow this formula to a T, then it will all work out and you'll be successful. But the truth is, that advice is just that, advice. Just because it worked out for a few doesn't mean it will work out for everyone.
On that topic, what do you see as a major roadblock that prevents a lot of professionals from going out and trying new things and trying to get the job done in a way that suits them?
Um, I think it starts with onboarding, and then it's really only magnified by the culture of the company and leaders across the organization. I mean, I have a full appreciation how challenging it is to bring on lots of new people and get them up to speed quickly. I'm just not sure that the one size fits all training program that I've seen time and time again is the answer. When I've seen this kind of blanket process across companies, companies become stagnant. Creativity just seems to get crushed in this type of environment.
I think that's a really great call out. I've seen it happen even during my short time in the business world, and having spoke with friends and peers, I know that a lot of people feel very anxious to try something new or a little outside the box, even when they are struggling and they need to do something to, keep their job and be successful. From what I've seen, this type of pressure and anxiety around doing what feels right, it's really led to some exceptional talent leaving companies
Mhm.
or possibly never reaching the success that they may have had if they had tried things their way.
Yep. I have quite a few stories around that as well.
I'm sure you do, and I'm sure many people listening probably can relate to some of those feelings. Well, on that note, I think we've kind of wrapped up this story. I know that's a whole nother episode in itself. So, on that note, we will be telling you a story that we like to call Catfights and Nice Guys next week.
Huh, that's a good one. I'm looking forward to sharing that story with you all. Mr. Nice Guy was he was one of my favorite bosses.
Bye, everyone. Hope to see you next week.
Bye. Take care.